Hi, I'm Matt Brasier, and welcome to our series Elevated. In this episode, I'm joined by Fred Bertenstam here, and we're going to be talking integrated studio. We also have a chat available, and it would be great to get your questions to make the session a bit more interactive. Also, if you want to scan the QR code and fill in our survey, that would be really helpful. So the format of these webinars is basically we'll have a discussion about a certain topic and then take questions from you guys so we can make this a bit more of an interactive session. So integrated studio, what are your thoughts? What does that mean to you, Fred?
Well, first of all, I'm really glad to be here and talk about integrated studio. And to me, the integrated studio is where we sort of embrace capture into the workflow of the studio. And based on that, what's the most important thing that you do in a studio? Well, that's capturing really high quality images. And the only thing that is really disconnected from the workflow is the point of capture.
Right. So do you think that it's quite a common thing to have software linked with hardware in this integrated way, or is it a relatively rare thing?
I would say that everyone is struggling with it, but it doesn't exist. Nobody has it. It's the camera will always live its own life on the side of the workflow. But getting the camera integrated to the workflow will be very crucial, or getting the point of capture. No, it's not just the camera, it's the light setting, it's the, controlling the bay, if you like, and making sure that we get the right visual on the garment that we're shooting or the products that we're shooting.
Yeah, to give the audience some sort of context here, I think many people understand a photo studio and how that works. You've got your camera, you've got your lights, but when you go into high volume production, the organization that you can achieve with software that is available these days, is the kind of backbone of building a successful workflow for your studio. And what we're looking at here is how you can translate something quite abstract, like a style guide, but then actually translate that into hardware settings. So exposure, camera position, lighting setups, for instance, right?
Yeah, it's essentially, as you say, if you can take your product and assign it to a light setting that is predefined, and you can make sure that you have all the information available at place in the bay, you can streamline the point of capture, reducing the number of images you have to take on that product. Because one of the big things is that you produce a lot of images just to pick one that you want to use. If we can eliminate that, we will really, really streamline the production time. And as you say, in a high volume production studio, that's critical.
I know before we switched on the camera, we had a little discussion about the number of errors that creep into a studio. And I'm thinking about my time as an e-commerce studio manager, and we were working with an error rate just on renaming files of like 1%. It doesn't sound like much, but when you produce 20,000 images a month, that's a huge amount of manual work that somebody has to do, right?
Yeah, and if you can't detect that very early on, and if you can't control that, you probably ship the sample back to the warehouse, and then you figure it out a lot later, and then you have to reorder the sample to the studio, and you have to set the rigging up again, and you have to set the light again. And if all that is a very manual process, it's going to take time. Many studios will decide that, we only shoot everything with one light setting, but that doesn't fit. If you get clothes with reflective material, you want to change the light setting a bit. And then when you go back to, say, shooting dark clothes, you want to reset the lighting once again. And so in essence, if you set the light to just one light setting for all, you're going to have a few images that are good, and the majority is going to be rather bad, actually. And as you said, if you're going to reshoot images and bring them on to the set again, and there's a lot of time consumed in that process.
So it's this tight integration that is going to cut down on errors and manual work, but also being able to control your hardware. You have more control over that style guide, not deviating, right? Because if a photographer jumps around, doing tethered shoots and so on, they might end up with great looking images, but they're not necessarily going to fit, as a collection of products imagery on the website. It might look a bit disjointed, right?
Yeah.
So having that, physical control even over, your tripod height position or whatever it is, and your like you said before, the lighting.
The fact is that everyone struggles with this. There's examples of studios that bolt their lights to the floor, and they're trying to, firm or be very strict on what you can do. But the light setting is the light setting. It's just a twist of a knob, and you have a different light setting. So if you can really control that, if you can assign that to a specific product type or a specific style guide, so that you bring down the product, you pick your style guide, and boom, automatically you have all your light setting done in your studio. That's really, really going to change it.
And I guess also, people worry about creativity. If you have a very fixed setup, as you mentioned, bolt down stuff, people worry about, is that actually creative? Are we just then in image factory, so to speak? But to that, I would say that, you have the creativity comes in the styling and the display of how those products are featured. You want a visual, consistent language, but to keep your creatives happy, styling, giving it that extra bit of texture on the light, to bring out, like you said, bring out detail. For me, that's where the creativity is. You're still being creative, but you still want to, at the same time, keep the visual language somewhat on track.
Yeah, it's a bit like designing a car. You will have a car designer that would write the car, design the car, and be very creative about that. But you wouldn't let that creative person into the manufacturing belt. Simply. So once you've designed your light and set it for a certain product type, you should assign all the products that use that design or that light setting for those products, and so the creative part can be setting up for a whole product, line of products or category of products.
So, if you were to summarize, let's say your top 5 things from integrating the software and the hardware in e-com for planning and capture, what would be your top 5 takeaways?
Well, if you look at it, if the goal is to have high quality, consistent images in your output, the point of capture is where you're gonna, capture the product. You have a pre-production and you have a post-production. So if you in your pre-production can set A, tell exactly what products you're shooting, B, how you're gonna shoot them, and with the style guide. C, give that information to the bay at the same time as you press the light setting for that specific product and that specific style guide into the bay. You will definitely have your output consistent with a high quality, and you can be very diverse in the way you express your products. So you can have one light, you can have one design for your shiny products, and you can have another one for your soft products, and
So what you're saying is really preparation, right? So, you know, there's that old adage, you know, fail to prepare is prepare to fail.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, that's the thing. That's a message for me listening to you is that, you know, with the best will in the world, you still need to organize in a sort of methodical way, even in a creative process like content production.
Yeah. So absolutely. In a high volume production, if you can eliminate the complexity of setting the light every time, and if you can eliminate the problem of naming images and adding the right metadata to them and make that automated, you will have a very, very streamlined process of creating high quality images for a very diverse set of products.
Well, I think you've summed it up perfectly there. Yeah. I want to thank you for joining us, and you know, if you want to continue this discussion online, then please reach out to us in the chat. And yeah, hopefully we'll bring you another one of these with a lot more insights from experts like Fred here.
Yep.
And we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thank you for being here.
Take care.